Okay, we're live. Great. So here's SPSS, and this is what we're going to use for our case study on wage gap. So hopefully you'll have heads of households in your recent files dialog when you look at the welcome screen. Not, you'll have to find it, but I have it and I've actually already opened it, so it's back here. So we need to do two things in this class, in this lab. First, we are going to divide up all of the people. No, I'm sorry. First, we're going to filter our data to only include 1 decade's worth of data because it's hard to compare decades with values. So, incomes across decades, right? Because of inflation. So we'll start by going to the data menu up here. We'll select cases. So we're going to do if condition is satisfied. And we'll click this if to define our condition. And I will say year equals. Some of you should pick different years. You'll probably be able to make more sensible income brackets if you do nowadays rather than 1980s. But whatever decade you want to use. So that if condition is satisfied, and we'll hit OK. So there's the output window. And then, so I'll put that over here. And then here's my data window. Okay, so this is the results of what I'm doing. This is what I'm modifying. So we filtered our data. If we look down at other decades, we'll see scratched out. All right, so big hair fishnets, 1980s. Might as well save because we just made a change. Good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to convert the income variable, which is over here, income wage, from this numeric value to a category. So we're going to have 4 categories. We're going to have poor, modest, comfortable, and wealthy. So in order to split this up, we'll use transform menu. We will recode into a different variable. So we're going to be recoding inc wage. So we look for it. It's down here. Wage and salary income. If you mouse over it, it will tell you the abbreviation there. So we put that here. So notice we can't hit OK yet because we have to give our new variable a name. So the name, there's a SPSS name and a human readable name. So the SPSS name is going to be inc bracket. And then the human readable name, which can have spaces in it, is here. So name, computer readable, no spaces. Label, human readable, spaces are fine. So we change, that question mark turns into inc bracket. Now we have to define, we still can't hit OK because we have to define the rules that we're going to use to create the old and new values. So the old value, these are different ways we can break up the old value, and then these are the things we're going to assign. So the first new value is going to be 1. We use numbers here and not text because numeric codes are SPSS's preferred way of dealing with categorical variables. So we'll set up 4 codes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the next step we'll give them labels. So the rule we're going to use for 1 is a range, the lowest, so anything up to the value here. So this is going to be the value that's separating the poor income bracket from the modest income bracket. And I will be silly and I will say 5,000, just in case some of you do the 80s and are tempted to copy. So then the next bracket is 2. Excuse me, it's super late. And here we're going to have a range with 2 ends, just like in that table I showed you in the instructions, right? So we have case study. So there was no bottom here, so we said lowest through here. Now we're going to do these 2 things for the bottom of the bracket and the top of the bracket. So bottom bracket, top of the bracket. So we'll say and through we'll do 15,000. We'll just go by tens. So add that. So anyone who's got a value between 5,000 and 15,000 is going to be a 2. And then the next one is value 3. That's going to be 15,000. I'm sorry about the yawning. Through 25,000. We'll add that in. And then the last one is going to go 25,000 and up. That'll be 4. So anything less than 5,000 is 1, 5 to 15 is 2, 15 to 25 is 3, anything over 25 is 4. So we've got every possible value, so that's going to work. I want to make sure there's no gaps between any of your thresholds, or you're going to have weird results with missing data. So we hit continue. Now we've defined all new values. We've given a name for the variable. We can hit OK. So it tells us what it did. There's the code. Doesn't tell us what happened. If we go back here, so right now you can see that the labels are visible. See how that's ruler and it's still showing letters? How does that work? Well, SPSS in the view menu is showing you the value labels, but they're actually keeping track of almost all of these as numeric codes, just like we did for our 4 income brackets. So we go back to value labels. We can see nice human readable ones. There were so many value labels for this one that's why it gave us a weird thing. We don't need to worry about that. So here we are in income bracket, and it converted into a decimal number, and it's just numbers because we haven't defined labels yet. So where do we define? But it did figure out these are categories because that's what we used. We were breaking things up into categories. So we go down to the variable view to determine what the levels of our income bracket are. Now, just because I'm super type A, we don't need decimals for our 4 numbers, and it's only a single digit because there's only 4 of them, so we only need 1 of these. So we do that, save, and if we go back to data view for a second, you can see that shaved off the decimal places. So it's not only a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but it also uses a lot less computer storage space. So sometimes that's worth it if you have a really big data set. So here's the computer name, type, width. Here's that human readable label we gave it. Now here in the values is where we create human readable labels for each of our code variables. So the first code was 1, and that is 4. Add that. And then the next value is 2, and that's modest. That 3. Comfortable. And 4. Not 5. 4. All right, so we add that. We hit OK. And there are our codes. So now if we go back to data view, they are expressed in text. Computer still sees it as numbers underneath, but it's easier for us to read. Sweet. So again, save. So we've got one category, income bracket, and we've got the other category, it's around here somewhere, sex. There it is. So now we can do our chi-square test of independence to see if all 4 income brackets are distributed among males in the same sort of proportions that they're distributed among females. So you go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Crosstab. So it's a cross tabulation because you're going to be 2 different variables and see how they interact with each other. So I usually like to make the variable with more levels be the row. Oh, geez, I apologize. And we're going to do the variable with fewer levels be column. So there's 4 rows and 2 columns. So that's 3 degrees of freedom and 1 degree of freedom. So we're going to have a chi-square test with 3 degrees of freedom. So let's ask for that chi-square test. Oh, there it is right there. So we will continue. And anything else we need to check in here? Yeah, we're good. You can play around with those. You want to see in the cells. You know, it might be fun to see the unstandardized residuals. That will tell us how many extra men and women there are in each group. So we will go continue. And this might be ugly when I redo it, but let's hit OK. Here's our output again. All right. So, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So what do we got? So here's the poor income bracket. We have 711 males, 591 females out of 1302. It's a deficit of 300 males and an excess of females. So there's more females than males proportionally in the poor income bracket. How about modest? More females, fewer males. So 1,000 females, 2,500 males. Here we are in comfortable. Now we've switched the pattern. So there's fewer females and more males. Wealthy, we've got, again, fewer females and more males. So overall, there are more males than females, but with this negatives here are telling us that there's fewer than we would expect if they were equally distributed. So is that a statistically significant pattern? It sure is. So the probability of observing this big a difference from what we expected, if there really was no difference between men and women, is 0. So we can say it's a highly significant test, so it's not really 0, right? We say p is less than 0.001. Of course, they can't just call it a p-value, they call it the asymptotic two-sided significance. Jerks. All right, so then the last thing I asked for in the write-up is a graph. So we'll go to graphs, chart builder, and we are going to do a bar plot like this. No, we're going to do a histogram. And we'll do histogram. No, let's do bar plot. Bar plot, colors. So we're going to do color by sex, which is what I asked for. And we are going to show how often the different income brackets appear. Look at that, it already did count for us already. There's count again. We don't need error bars on this. So we can hit OK. And see, again, this is a cartoon, right? So it knows what the 4 values are, but these aren't the actual values it's going to show. That's just a cartoon. So this is not the graph. You have to hit OK to get the chart. And you wait for it. And that's all the code that it was done to write it. And here is our cluster bar chart. So you can see there's more men in all of them. But there's relatively more females in poor and modest, relatively more males in comfortable and wealthy. You're going to probably have to pick different brackets. Please pick different brackets. Honestly, if you give me the exact same brackets I did in this example, I will give you a 0 on the assignment because that would make me grumpy. I really want you to think about what reasonable income brackets would be. That's the important part of this lab. So then you do a write-up. So you start by saying why you might care about wage gap. Say something a little bit more meaningful than my professor's making me do this. And then talk about what you expect to see. That's going to be off the introduction. There we go. And then your methods is going to just be a couple sentences describing how you did your income brackets. So like, why did you pick the 3 borders that you picked? Say you got the data from IPUMS and put a link to IPUMS there, like in the regression lab. So give me space here. And you say, I'm going to be using an interaction chi-square test. And then this is your sentence and results. So you say there was, and if it's significant, you say there was a significant association between a person's sex and their income bracket, chi-squared with 3 degrees of freedom equals, and then you throw in your chi-squared value. So in my case, that would have been 1,055. You can just round that off. And then I'd say p is less than 0.001. That's the whole results. The discussion was like my hypothesis for disproved, what the patterns we saw. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I was looking at the bar graph or the chi-square test, and then wrap it up. So it should easily, at most, be a page, and then you'll have like your picture here, right? So copy it, paste it here, and that didn't work. There we go. Whew, irritating. I wonder why it's being bad. Oh, well, I'll figure that out later. Oh, that's looking better. Look at all those helpful graphs there. That's great. Good times. All right, so there's my example graph. There we go. Cool. All right. So that's basically what you're gonna do. I bet that was awesome getting to watch me do that. But you can fumble around too. Okay, guys and gals and gender nonconformers, we will talk to you